Hare Krishna. Are we live now? Yes, we're live. Okay. Hare Krishna, Hare Bol, dear devotees. Sorry for the late start, but we'll begin now. Namo Vishnu Padhaya Krishna Preshtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Iti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Radha Gokulananda, Radha Gokulananda, Radha Gokulananda, Shri Radhe. Radha Gokulananda, Radha Gokulananda, Radha Gokulananda, Shri Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, Prabhupada, Nitai Gaura Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitai Gaura Hari Bol, Nitai Gaura Hari Bol, Nitai Gaura Hari Bol. Hare Ram Sankirtan Yajna ki Jai, Hare Krishna Maha Mantra ki Jai, Prabhupada ki Jai. Thank you. Hare Krishna, Shashi Mataji, Radha Koli Mataji, and all others watching. So today we will be discussing the second part of the 9th chapter of the Gita, which is arguably the sweetest, or one of the sweetest at least, to avoid controversy. All verses in the Bhagavad Gita are sweet, but one of the sweetest sections of the Bhagavad Gita. And we are only left with, if you look at it, only several verses. We worked up to 25 last time. And now we are left with some of the sweetest verses from verses 26 to 34. And so before we get in, we'll just do the invocation and then we'll go straight into it. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. 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 Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudhirayet. Before we carry on, can we just check that the microphone and everything is working? The last time we did a class from this laptop, it was on Bhishmadev, and for some reason the microphone didn't work at the beginning, and then the video stopped in between as well. So if anyone can just put a yes if they can hear me right now, that would be very much appreciated. So from the 9th chapter, do you want to just check if you can hear me? It's okay, yeah? So from the 9th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, we started off with Raja Vidya Yoga, the most confidential knowledge. And so we started off by discussing the beginning, the importance of hearing. The importance of hearing, and that knowledge is state-specific. The knowledge which Lord Krishna says he's going to impart is state-specific. It depends on the state the person is in, the level that they will understand. And it's what those two things that he mentions? Anasuyave is one of them. Remember, that's a very important one. Is Anasuyave. Yeah, okay, thank you, Mataji, thank you. He says that, Anasuyave, non-envious. One of the reasons I'm telling you, Arjuna, is because you are non-envious and you are faithful. So these two things, faithfulness and non-enviousness, will allow us to then go and carry out this practice of our knowledge, of the knowledge that Lord Krishna is going to give further. And he says another thing. He says susukam kartum avyayam, that this knowledge is very, very joyfully performed. And so when we have the faith and we have that non-envious attitude, we'll be able to joyfully and happily perform this process. Because this process, it's very important to recognize this is a God-loving process. It's all done by love. There is no part of it which is done due to fear. Because through fear, when there is fear, you cannot force love. If I hold up a gun to someone's head and say, what's this, sorry? If a man holds up a gun to a woman's head and says, "Shoot, love me or I'll shoot you," the woman will say, "Oh, I love you," but that doesn't actually mean that she loves him, because that's out of fear. And so when there is fear, there is no love, and where there is love, there is no fear. And so this process is done through the loving aspect, because it's the nature of the soul to love and to want to be loved. And so when we direct that to the Supreme Lord, this is called devotional service. This is called bhakti. So we started off with talking about the importance of that hearing, the non-enviousness, faithful, and then you'll be able to perform joyfully. It will be done joyfully. That's the very important part. That when this knowledge is applied, it's not, although maybe mechanically at first, it's only happy. The whole process is happy, and to the degree we immerse ourselves into that process, to that degree we'll be benefiting from the happiness. So then we talked about a little bit more of a philosophical section in verses 10 onwards, approximately. 4 to 10, and in that we described this very inconceivable nature of the Lord, and how difficult it is to try and get our heads around it, and that, forget this sort of simultaneous, how the Lord is simultaneously involved in the material world but simultaneously aloof at the same time, and therefore neutral. And then we talked about how great devotees like Kunti Maharani, like Bhishma Dev. Kunti Maharani says, "I can't imagine that the same child who's running away, scared after the mother has found out that they have stolen butter, how that same child, how can I think is the Supreme Lord, who's genuinely scared and running away?" Bhishma Dev says, "How am I meant to understand that the Lord Krishna, he is the reason this Prakriti material world is working, and so it's emanating from him, yet he comes and descends into it as his original form. How am I meant to understand that?" Then we also talk about Lord Brahma. Brahma gets confused as well, to see the Lord is eating with, this little bluish boy has just killed a demoniac snake, very ferocious snake, and is now proceeding to eat along with his friends. And when he eats, it's not just that he's eating, but it's that he's eating with his left and right hand at the same time. And then as well as that, he's eating things that are already half eaten, that his friends are, this is very nice. My dear Krishna, you want to have this as well. Or they're giving to him half-chewed food. Now, how is that meant to be the Supreme Personality of Godhead? So even Brahma becomes bewildered. There are so many pastimes like this. We can go, Indra becomes confused at one point as well, and that's why the Govardhan Leela comes into play. So the nature of the Lord is inconceivable, and that is established there. This is one of the opulences of the Lord. He says that, Pashyame Yogamaishvaram. Look at this opulence. Nachamatstani Bhutani Pashyame Yogamaishvaram. That although I support the living entities, I also technically don't. This is my yoga, this is my opulence. And so then we see some very nice verses. Most important verses we discussed were 14 verse. Oh no, this laptop's a little bit of a pain. Is it going to work? Please work. Okay, so we discussed verse number 14. We discussed how always chanting my glories, always endeavoring with the great determination. These great souls are perpetually worshipping me with devotion. This is verse number 14, which is very important, and it's where we get this idea of pure loving devotional service, this bhakti done without any other desires, attachments, and other things involved. And then after that, we discussed another important verse, very, very sweet verse again, this one. Verse number 22, we highlighted, "Those who worship me with exclusive devotion To them, I carry what they lack and I preserve what they have. The Lord says that he, and not just that, but he says he personally will do that. We discussed the story of Arjunacharya, who goes to have a bath, and when in the meanwhile, the Lords appear in disguise, and they say, look, that because Arjunacharya crosses out Vahamyam and puts Karomyam, that I will get it done. But the Lord himself, he says personally, that he establishes that. Personally, he will carry what they lack and preserve what they have. This is the sweetness of the Lord. And to our insufficient minds and our brains which cannot perceive things to this level, we don't understand how the Lord can maintain that sort of individual relationship with everyone at the same time. Lord Shri Krishna had 16,108 queens. He married 8 of them, and then he married 16,100 at a separate time. And so in all those 9 marriages, he got married to 16,108 queens altogether. And with every single queen, there was a palace. In that palace was the Lord, and he was there individually with every one of them at the same time. Lord Narad sees this and he becomes so bewildered. This is the nature of the Lord. And so finally, after discussing that importance of that devotion, perpetual, constant devotion, which is pure, then we come to that point where we realize, okay, from verse number 25, which is the last one that we ended on, is that those who worship the demigods will go to the planets of the demigods. Those who worship the ancestors go to the planets of the ancestors. Those who worship the ghosts and such beings, they go to that planet. But those who worship the Lord, he says, they come to me. And what is so great about that? Yes, it's very logical to see that whatever you worship to that destination you achieve, wherever you focus to that thing that you will achieve. But not only that, whether it be the demigods, whether it be the ghosts, or whether it be the ancestors, these 3 ghosts is more like I don't know what you define them as in English, but I guess the word is ghost. These 3 things, whether we worship and attain, they're all in the material world. And so they all may provide some temporary result, but they won't be able to take us out of the material world. What have we learned about the material world? Does anyone remember? If you put in chat as well, what have we learned about the material world? What does Lord Krishna say in the 8th chapter? He says something about the material world. Two characteristic features are given about the material world. Now I know you know them. I'm not going to ask you. I'm gonna see if someone from the audience has a chance. Anyone there? Please do write in chat. He mentions 2 things, and so those who worship the demigods, although they go to the demigods, they will enjoy very happily in the heavenly planets. There is no doubt about that. They will enjoy. But then after some point, when their pious credit runs out, they also then come back down. They come back down to these planets again. And so it's only temporary in that sense. And therefore, Lord Krishna has then put forward that, okay, you worship me and you come to me. And he's mentioned later as well that Mamupeti Punarjanma Dukkalema Shashvatam. Nabnuvanti Mahatmana Samsiddhim Paramamgata. Those who come to me, they leave this material world. No one's put it yet in chat, so I don't know if that's just a time lag or no one else has got it. 2 characteristic features of the material world. Doesn't look like anyone's got it in chat. Do you want to say what they are?
Abode of miseries.
Yeah.
Dukkha alayam.
Yeah.
Impermanent, not temporary.
Yeah, so 2 things, yeah. It's Dukkhalayam, it's a place full of miseries, and Ashashvatam, it's impermanent, it's temporary. So whatever we get, when we're looking for true happiness, if we look for true happiness in a place which is temporary, that is called illusion, because it's not going to be the truest of happiness. Whatever happiness we get only causes misery in the long run. And so that's the reason the Lord has telling us this process by which we can leave the material world. Okay, and then now we've come to the stage where we're going to deal with, from verses 26 to 34, we deal with the glories and the sweetness of devotional service. And this is where that aspect comes in, the God-loving aspect. It's in our nature to love, to serve. These 2 things are intrinsically linked. That service is not more of a forced thing, but rather it's the devotional service is not a forced thing, but rather it's a thing done out of love. And because it's in our nature to love, it's in our nature to serve. In my room where I sit upstairs, I have 3 windows. I have one directly in front of me, and I have 2 at angles to that original one. It's a bay window. That's what they call it, right? Bay windows. And so I open the blinds a little bit so I can get that light, and I can look out as well. And as I'm working, sometimes I'll notice, not that much anymore, but I'll be able to see. Definitely prior to COVID, a lot of people used to go on walks with their dogs. They still do, but just not as frequently. And that when they go to walks with their dogs, every now and then, occasionally, the dog will decide to go to the toilet on the street. And the people will immediately open their little plastic bag, and they'll quickly take up whatever's there on the floor, wrap in that plastic bag, and proceed with their journey further, and obviously throw it in the bin later on. And they're unaffected by that at all. They don't think it's a burden because they truly love the pet. They truly love it. And so in that service is not seen as a burden for them because it's out of love. Because it's in our nature to serve and in our nature to love, then these things will be very natural. It's very natural for us to want to love and to serve. And so as we've described before, very long time ago, I don't know if people remember this, but we mentioned once in that Rota Bhakti lecture that the love is when we sacrifice something for someone else. The real love is when we do the sacrifice for someone else without any expectation. And the purest form of love is when we love the Lord, because by loving the Lord, it's like shining a laser light onto a crystal. That crystal will then diffuse that light everywhere in the room, and the whole room becomes illuminated. And so yata taror mula nishechanena triptyanti tatskanda bhujopashaka. By serving the Lord, everyone becomes happy. Just by watering the roots of the tree, all parts of the tree are nourished. By serving the Lord, everyone becomes happy. And by feeding food to the stomach, all other aspects and limbs of the body, they all become satisfied as well. So it's the same principle there. And so now we've got the idea that if you look from the perspective of love, then the best, the highest, purest form is that bhakti, that devotional service. And even in bhakti, in the category of bhakti, there's prema bhakti, loving devotional service, which is the highest, which is done unto the Supreme Lord. And then if you look from perspective of happiness, because these 2 things are intrinsically linked, love and happiness are intrinsically linked. When we look at it from the perspective of happiness as well, the truest form of happiness cannot be obtained when we are in a material world and we are trying to focus on something material. It's foolish to go to an iron mine looking for gold. You may find some gold, but it's not the right place to look, and a lot of the work will become fruitless. And so that's why, if we want to truly get happiness, we have to look outside of this material world, outside of this material nature. And so that's what's pointed out there. And so now we can head in to this most beautiful section of the 9th chapter, the ending, concluding section. And this verse number 26 might be one of the most iconic verses in the entirety of the Bhagavad Gita. And it's often quoted by devotees. It's often quoted repeatedly. It's a massive concept, and it also highlights how easy devotional service is. 9:26. Patram pushpam phalam toyam yo me bhaktya prayachati tadaham bhaktyuparitam ashnami prayatatmana. If one offers me with love and devotion a leaf, a flower, a fruit, or water, I will accept it. This is the beginning of the glories of the bhakti section, the glories of devotional service. Bhakti is translated not as service, not as devotion, but as devotional service, because those 2 things are intrinsically linked. So what does he say? A leaf, a flower, a fruit, or water. All these things, when offered with love and devotion, Lord Krishna says he'll accept it. Now, it's important to recognize in the Vedas, there are so many sacrifices, elaborate sacrifices with all these intricate rules, descriptions that require so many things like qualified priests, vast quantities of ghee, and etc. To do all these vast, big sacrifices. And they all have such really important rules. You break any of those rules, then the sacrifice doesn't work. So these sacrifices are all given. But the Lord does not prescribe any of these things. No. He says, Patram pushpam phalam toyam. A leaf, a flower, a fruit, or water. If you notice all the things in this verse, they're also singular. This is a really important point. That the qualification here is not having that vast quantities of ghee or qualified priests. There is a different prerequisite for devotional service. And that is, he says that a leaf, a flower, a fruit, or water. These things are all singular. For those of you that know Sanskrit, patram. Patram means one leaf, a leaf. Patrani is many leaves. Pushpam is one flower. Pushpani, many flowers. You're not going to guess the next one. Phalam means one fruit. Phalani means many fruits. And so Lord Krishna doesn't even say a fruit. Many, please offer many fruits. Please offer many flowers, many leaves. He says a leaf, a flower, a fruit, and some water. These things are all singular, and the other things, they're all universal. Anyone, anywhere can carry out that, can get these items. And so then it actually points out, okay, so if the Lord is not interested in the quantity, what is he actually interested in? There's the quality, yeah. He's not interested in the quantity. So the Lord is interested in something much greater. And it's because he's not actually attracted by the leaf, the flower, the fruit, or the water in itself. There is something else far more important which he emphasizes in this verse. Patram pushpam phalam toyam yome bhaktya prayachati tadaham bhaktyupritam. Bhakti is emphasized twice in this verse. Twice. It's the idea that bhakti is the important thing. When the leaf, the flower, the fruit, or water are offered, it's the loving devotional service, which is what makes them so great, what makes them so dear. And so, the only qualification which is required, and this is the important thing, the only qualification which is required in this devotional service is that devotion. It's not the material opulences, it's nothing external, but it's only the devotion. Some people have this question then, why do we offer to the Lord? Well, what's the need of offering? You know, I can eat myself, I can, eat, cook, whatever, eat myself, it's fine. I don't need to offer. Why do you offer? When I offer it to the Lord says I accept it. But I can still see the food is there in that plate. I can still see it's there. Why does the Lord say I accept it then? And it's explained. The Lord does not care for all the foodstuffs and items. Rather, it's the gesture of love which is so important to the Lord. The Lord accepts the love. The food acts as a medium to transport that love. Just as when you want to transport water, then you put it in some sort of bucket or something. And then you take the water again. So in the same way, the food is offered with love and devotion. And so that love and devotion is what the Lord is looking for. That's when he says, Ashnami, he says that the love and devotion have given the appetite. It's the love that the Lord is looking for. Then the other question may arise, well, why? Who is the Lord? Isn't he's the Lord himself? What's the need for us to offer anything to him? And a really nice example for us to understand, maybe sometimes when people go to the Mother Ganga, they go to Mother Ganga and they respect. What they do is they take a little bit of the Ganges water, they offer their prayers, and then they pour it back into the water. They've taken that water from the Ganges, but it's the gesture of love which is important there. Or when a mother buys a child a pack of biscuits, then the child opens the biscuits. The mother has bought with their own money. The mother's bought with their own money. And the child opens the pack of biscuits, and before eating, he says, Amma, just take one. Can you just take one? And they take a biscuit out and offer it to the mum. How does the mother feel at that time? She is paid for it. It's her money. If you're looking intrinsically, it was already the mother's in the first place. But it's the gesture of love which means so much. So that's why the Lord says bhakti twice in that verse. There are so many examples which can be given here regarding these various items. In the case of a leaf, there's the story that Indra once became bewildered. As we said, the Lord is inconceivable. Indra once became bewildered by the Lord. And so in that pastime, in that activity, what he does is he goes and floods Vrindavan and puts torrential rain. And Lord Krishna, what does he do? He picks up the Govardhan mountain with his left hand. And there is a wonderful description given. But after 7 days and nights of all sorts of pompous activity under the hill, which Lord is lifting with his left hand, little finger, as he plays the flute on the right hand, and all the gopis, gopas, Vrajvasis, they're all having a very nice time. what happens is that in that pastime, in that Govardhan Leela, they offer foodstuffs to Govardhan. Prior to that, they offer all sorts of things. Actually, the occasion was meant for Indra Puja, and so instead they do Govardhan Puja, and so they put all sorts of varieties of items, vast quantities, and they offer it to Lord Govardhan. And Govardhan manifests himself as the personality, and he says, and he gladly accepts all of the offerings. He takes them all, and then he says, Anayor, bring me more food. I'm not full yet. I'm not satisfied. And so they go and prepare more. And what happens again? Govardhan takes all of them, and he says, Anayor. And now they're thinking, well, what is this? What are we going to do now? How do we fix this? They all turn to Krishna. Krishna, you're very intelligent. Please tell us how we can fix this. And so what he does, he gets a simple tulsi leaf, and he offers it to Govardhan. And Govardhan, just with that one tulsi leaf, becomes completely satisfied. This is the story of how Govardhan was satisfied simply by the tulsi leaf, just by the leaf. If we want to talk about an occasion where patram pushpam of flower is offered, just a individual flower. It's not that one has to offer a leaf and a flower and a fruit and some water. It's just at least one of these with love and devotion. There is one time when the elephant Gajendra goes to enjoy with his many wives, many elephant wives, in the forests, in the Trukuta mountain. And as he goes to enjoy, he's playfully enjoying in the water. He's getting some water in his trunk and he's throwing it at his wives, and he's throwing it at them, and they're reciprocating. They're splashing water on each other. They're having a very nice time. And then Gajendra's leg is bitten and is grasped by a crocodile. And it's tightly gripping on and biting on the leg, holding onto it. And Gajendra fights for a very long time. And the crocodile fights back. But because Gajendra is an animal of the land and the crocodile is the animal of the water, the crocodile keeps on getting stronger as Gajendra keeps on getting weaker. And all his family, all the other elephants there, everyone else there, they can't do anything. And they just watch, and they can't help at all in any way. And so in that excruciating pain that Gajendra is experiencing, he does one thing. With his trunk, he picks up a lotus flower in that water, and he offers it to the Lord with these wonderful prayers, which he has remembered from his past life as a king, Indradyumna in his past life. And he offers these lords all these wonderful prayers that are given in Srimad Bhagavatam. Om Namo Bhagavate Tasmai Yatayeta Chitatmikam Purushaya Dibhijaya Pareshaya Hidimati. These wonderful prayers he offers. And the Lord, becoming so that my devotees calling me with so much love, he rushes, and the poetic description is given that the Lord rushes. He's going so quick that his Shankha Chakra Gadan Padma, the items he's holding in his hands, they're rushing behind him. My Lord, don't forget us. That's how quick he's going, forgetting everything else, just for his devotee. Then we can see an example. So this is a very sweet example given for Gajendra. And then again, we can see another example for Phalam. That people may have heard this idea that the Lord actually refuses to go one time to Duryodhan's place to eat. Duryodhan makes a massive feast. He gets all these items ready, all sorts of foodstuffs, wonderful delicacies. He's got them all wonderfully prepared in vast quantities. So he invites Lord Krishna over for a meal. And Lord Krishna goes there, and what does he do? He says, no, I'm not interested, it's fine. And where does he go? He goes to Vidra's house. And that time Vidra's actually out. He's not at home. But his wife is still there. And so she says, so she's preparing some food item which contains banana. And as she does, she's peeling the banana, And then instead of offering the banana to the Lord, she offers the peel to the Lord. My dear Lord, please eat. Now, what does Lord Krishna say? Does he think, oh my God, I've made a terrible mistake. I should have just eaten at Duryodhana's place. It would have been so much nicer. Now I'm having to eat banana. No. He happily accepts the banana peel and he eats it. He doesn't say anything. He doesn't say anything and he just eats the banana peel, which has been offered with love and devotion. Yeah. Duryodhanaka bhojanakaya, bhoganakaya, sadhu vidur, garakaya, right? That he doesn't eat at Duryodhana's massive feast. Externally, you're looking, Duryodhana has done a much better setup than Vidura's wife. But Lord enjoys what Vidura's wife has given far more than the opulent feast at Duryodhana. Duryodhana had done it with pride. The Lord does not want pride. The Lord is looking for that love and devotion. And so, of course, after Lord Krishna leaves the place, Vidura's wife immediately, Vidura comes back, and then he looks and he sees that there are all the bananas are there. The banana peels are not in the bin. All the bananas are in the bin. All the bananas have been thrown away. And so he's thinking, okay, what is this? What is this situation? And then they realize that, wow, this is the mercy of the Lord. This is the magnanimity of the Lord. That all he does is he simply takes the banana peel, and that is what satisfies him. That is what satisfies him. Again, we have an example as Lord Ramachandra. He's wandering in the forests in his exile, and he's there with Lakshman. And he's met, and as he's going in the forest with Lakshman, he finds and meets this tribal lady, Shabari, who has been wonderfully preparing every single day of her life, because she had been given the instruction by her guru that one day you'll meet the Lord. She doesn't know which day, but she just knows one day. So every single day she's preparing, making sure that it's outside, it looks nice. Let's put all these flowers here. Let's get some foodstuffs. And as she gets the wild berries in the forests, she thinks, if I want to get the berries, what if the berries are sour? What if these berries are sour? What should I do? And so she thinks, okay, I need to test them. I need to make sure that they are eaten. Sorry, they are sweet, so that I only give the sweet ones. So what she does is, out of her love, her loving gesture, she then goes and takes a bite. She takes a bite. Okay, this is sour. Throws it away. Takes another bite. Okay, this one's sweet. Okay, we'll give this one to the Lord. And like that, she goes through. And when the Lord comes, she gives the half-eaten berries. She gives to the Lord. This is not for us to say, okay, now look, it's fine now. We can half eat berries and give them to the Lord. We can eat the banana. We'll give the banana peel to the Lord. This is not the point. The point is the Lord accepts the love and the devotion. So even though Lakshman is shocked, he thinks, what is this? Lord Ram simply eats, and he's very happy. He's very much happy. And Shabri is also very happy. The Lord has accepted. And so he eats without questioning, no question, because the love and the devotion is there. This is what the Lord wants. This is the prerequisite for devotional service. Sorry, this is a prerequisite for offering to the Lord. It's that loving devotional service. And even again, as we mentioned Lord Brahma's pastime. Brahma becomes bewildered. Because what are all these gopas doing? This is actually the thumbnail of this video. What are all these gopas doing? They're sitting around the Lord and they're half eating and then giving to the Lord. Out of their love. Out of love. So it's the loving devotion which is the most important thing. And so that's why this verse cannot be underestimated. This verse is so important. We get the idea that devotional service is so easily performed, so simply performed. And the only prerequisite we need in carrying out our offering to the Lord is love and devotion. This is all we need. And then later, and even if this may seem hard sometimes, some people, even if this is hard, the Lord says in the next verse, Yat karoshi adashnasi yat juhosi dadasiyat yat tapasyasi kaunteya tat kurushva madarpanam. Whatever you do, whatever you eat, whatever you offer, whatever you give away, whatever austerities you perform, do that, O son of Kunti, as an offering to me. So these two verses, again, if we're looking from a technical aspect, verse number 26 tells us the bhakti. Bhakti is the most important. And verse number 27 says, if you can't do bhakti because for some reason or another, for some reason you're finding it difficult, The Lord is even more merciful. He gives you another way of nishkama karma, which we have described earlier in chapters. That you work, do that work. You have to do that work, but just at least do it for the Lord. Do it for the Lord's sake. Detach yourself from the fruits of those works. The Lord then goes on to describe wonderfully that in this way they will be liberated. In this way they can achieve the Lord. This simple activity, no elaborate sacrifices, no great austerities. No, it's so simple as just carrying out this devotion and carrying out whatever we do for the Lord. This in itself is enough to liberate us from the bonds of material existence. Then the Lord goes on to mention that there may be times when the devotee accidentally commits a bad activity. Accidentally. Not on purpose. Accidentally commits. But because this devotional service is such, he's quickly purified from that bad activity. Right? This is the greatness of devotion. One of the greatest things of devotional service are sometimes accidentally material nature causes us to do something bad. Somehow or another. Accidentally. This is not on purpose. It's not, oh, okay, I will do what a Jamal did for the rest of my life. I'll go around stabbing, stealing people and doing all these nonsense. And at the end, I'll say Narayan and it's fine. No. Sometimes there is an accidental mistake which is made. But because the devotee is always engaged in that devotional service, always he's carrying out, he's always thinking of the Lord, always doing all these activities to please the Lord, with only the Lord and the Lord in mind. That's it. Whatever mistake he made, all of that will quickly be gone. There is no need for him to carry out any atonement because he is fixed in devotion. Devotional service itself purifies. Devotional service itself purifies. That's it. And in that verse he says Kaunteya pratijanahi name bhakta pranashyati. This phrase is so important. O son of Kunti, declare it boldly, my devotee never perishes. So not only is the Lord describing how simple the process of devotional service is, but he also goes on to then say that he himself, we've seen as well earlier, that he will carry what they lack and preserve what they have. The glory of devotional service is such that the devotee, as we've mentioned, there is no loss or diminution on this path. On this, there's only progress to be made. And so my devotee never perishes, he says. It might be raised there, actually. Why is Lord Krishna telling Arjuna to say, my devotee never perishes? This is such an important statement, that my devotee never perishes. Lord will always keep his devotee in mind. Why does he say Arjuna say it though? He says, Kaunteya pratijana. O son of Kunti, please declare it boldly. There was an incident given in the Mahabharata. We have mentioned earlier when Bhishma Dev gives a promise to Duryodhan. Duryodhan says, look, I feel like... Oh, sorry, why am I telling this one? I'll go on to that later. Sorry, the Lord is too sweet. Too many sweet pastimes. I'm getting confused between the pastimes. That Duryodhan goes to the Lord. Yeah?
Yeah.
And he says, and he gives, and Arjun goes to the Lord. And they say, look, we want you to join our side in the war. We want you to join our side. And one of the things that the Lord says, okay, look, you're both related to me, you're both connected to me. I can't choose like that. I will give one of you, I will join, but I will be unarmed and I won't pick up any weapon. And the other one, you can take my Narayani Sena. You can take my army. So that time, of course, we know, Duryodhan chooses the Narayani Sena. Even though he has the first choice, he decides not to choose the Lord. He thinks, oh, what will be Lord Krishna unarmed is useless. And then Arjun chooses the Lord. So there he promises that he will go unarmed. He will not pick up any weapon. That's what his promise is. Then there is a Bhishma Dev pastime, which goes as such that the Lord, Bhishma Dev promises Duryodhan that, look, I will kill the Pandavas tomorrow. That's it. I will kill the Pandavas tomorrow. I give you these 5 arrows. You give me them tomorrow. With these 5 arrows, I'll kill the 5 Pandavas. And so Duryodhan's very happy. He takes these 5 arrows later on. And he takes them and keeps them. And that time, then the Pandava side, they come to know about this incident. They find out somehow or other. And then they think, oh, okay, what are we going to do? And then Lord Krishna reminds Arjun, there was this one time where you saved Duryodhan. One time. That's a separate incident again. And in that, Duryodhan promised you that he will give you whatever you want. And so you go and use that promise now. So Arjun goes to Duryodhan. He asks Duryodhan, so this is also an important thing. They fight during the day, but they eat together at night because they don't fight during the night. And so Arjun goes to Duryodhan as a friend and says, my dear Duryodhan, yeah. You remember this one time when you asked me, when you promised me you'll give me something? I just like one thing from you. I want those 5 arrows. And so Arjun, and then Duryodhan gives the 5 arrows. And so Arjun takes them. The next day, Bhishma, he says, okay, Duryodhan, give me those 5 arrows. I'll kill the Pandavas today. So then Duryodhan says, I'm sorry, I don't have them. I can't get them. This is what happened. And Bhishma becomes ferocious. He becomes furious. And he began to go and absolutely slaughter and decimate the Pandava army. Absolutely annihilate them. And so then, Lord Krishna, seeing that Arjun's in danger, he gets off his chariot. And he goes and picks up the wheel of a fallen chariot, of a chariot that's broken. He picks up the wheel. And hurling towards Bhishma, he runs with wheel in hand. And Arjun runs after the Lord, grabs his leg, and gets dragged a little bit, but then finally brings him to a stop. And he says, my dear Lord, no, you can't do this. Remember, you promised that you said that I will not pick up any weapon. You said you won't pick up any weapon. But now you're doing like this. So Bhishma Deva says that, just the same way the Lord made me break my promise, I've made him break his promise. So the idea is the Lord may break even his own promise, but he will never break the promise of the devotee. Kaunteya pratijanahi name bhaktya pranashyati. That, O son of Kunti, declare it boldly, my devotee never perishes. This is why he's getting Arjun to say it. This is a sweet pastime which is given in that incident. Finally, the concluding verses of this chapter, the Lord describes how anyone can perform devotional service. Anyone, whether they be of maybe appearing materially a low birth or a high birth, or externally they may be beautiful, externally they may be ugly, or whatever the material world says. None of these things matter. Anyone and everyone can perform devotional service. Then there are no boundaries. Actually, Hanuman says this verse. I should have loaded it up here. Hanuman says this verse, na janmanu na mahato na saubhagam na vak na buddhir na kritisto shahetu tairyad vishrishta na pino vano kashas chakara sakye bhatalakshmana grajha. That we don't have a high birth. Hanuman is saying about himself. He's saying, us as the monkeys, we're born as monkeys. We don't have opulence. We can't speak well. We're not very articulate. We are not very beautiful. We don't have any of these material qualities. But yet, the elder brother of Lakshman, Lord Ram, has accepted us. This is highlighting that the Lord does not look at these external features. These external features, whether one is a man, a woman, whether one is born in a Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, or Shudra family, none of these things matter. The devotional service can apply to anyone. And this devotional service is such that although the Lord is neutral, the Lord favors his devotees, although he's neutral. Again, relating to the inconceivable nature of the Lord, we may not be able to understand that. And so this devotional service has no exceptions. Anyone can perform devotional service. No matter what external, like what body you have, what condition you're in, anything. Devotional service is an all-time thing. It can be done at any point in time. And so this is why the Lord says that, it doesn't matter whether you're of a higher or lower birth, this devotional service can be carried out. This is the process which is prescribed. Certain things will say, oh, you cannot do this at this time, or you cannot do this. They're very strict about it. But as we've mentioned, devotional service is so easily performed. So it doesn't matter what about the externals don't actually matter. And finally, the Lord concludes this chapter with the 34th verse, which summarizes the entirety of Bhagavad Gita in a nutshell. This verse itself is the summary of Bhagavad Gita. Some people will argue that Sarva Dharman Parityaja is also the sum of the Bhagavad Gita, but they tell the exact same point. And so, just as we have mentioned that the Bhagavad Gita, the Bhagavad Gita is such that the Bhakti Yoga section is in the middle. The 6 chapters in the middle deal with the importance of Bhakti. In them, the middle chapters are 9 and 10. This verse is in the middle of that as well. And so in that sense as well, if you're going from that perspective, this is right in the middle, and it's the most important verse of the Gita. And this verse itself summarizes every single point that's been made. So all the beauty of devotional service, the sweetness of devotional service, it all comes here. This is what it should culminate to. Any yoga practice, any practice of austerities, any practice of anything spiritual culminates in this. Text 34. Manmana bhava madbhakto madhyaji mam namaskuru mame vaishyasi yuktvaivam atmana matparayana. Engage your mind always in thinking of me. Become my devotee. Offer obeisances to me and worship me. Being completely absorbed in me, surely you will come to me. This verse itself is a summary of the entire Gita. If we don't understand anything, we don't understand the philosophy, we don't understand what Lord Krishna is saying about his inconceivable nature, this is it. This is the summary. Lord Krishna gives 4 instructions here. Manmana. Always engage your mind in thinking of me. Bhava madbhakto. Become my devotee. Madhyaji. Worship me. Mam namaskuru. Offer your obeisances unto me. These 4 things, what does he say? He says, when you do this, you will certainly come to me. You will certainly come to me without fail. This is the essence of not just the Bhagavad Gita, but of all Vedic literature. Because we have mentioned already that the Bhagavad Gita is the essence of all Vedic literature. And the essence of the Bhagavad Gita is provided in this verse. Even when Lord Krishna goes on to mention Sarva Dharman Parityaja, he says that Yaidam Paramam Guhyam, that this is the most secret, this is again the most confidential knowledge. And he says, give up all varieties of religion and surrender unto me, and I'll protect you from all fears. Do not worry. I'll protect you from everything. Moksha Yishyami Bharata. Maharashtra, sorry. And so it's this important point that whatever we understand or we don't understand, the complete purpose of the material world is fulfilled when we recognize that we are spiritual living entities. Our identity and our purpose are intrinsically linked in that way. We've mentioned in the same way we said happiness and service are intrinsically linked. Happiness and love are intrinsically linked. So in the same way, when one recognizes their spiritual identity, they also simultaneously will understand their purpose as well. And when one understands their spiritual identity and the purpose to go beyond the boundaries of material nature, the realms of material nature, which is a place full of misery, and then they can go beyond this and what their purpose is to go beyond this, to get out of this place and go to the spiritual world, then they can achieve true happiness. And so what does the Lord say? Sarva dharman parityaja. Forget all kinds of pious and impious activities. That all we need to do is become a devotee to the Lord, surrender unto him. And it's very easy. It's a very easy process. Manmana bhava madbhakto. Always engage our consciousness in Lord Krishna. Always engage whatever we are thinking in Lord Krishna. The slight difference comes, as we said, there is the king's advisor, although always thinking of the king, may not be the servant, may not love the king. Just in the same way, the king's advisor always thinks of the king, he might not love the king. So that's why the Lord provides all 4, to provide the holistic view. Yes, always think of Krishna, never forget Krishna, but always think of Krishna in a loving manner. You can say Kamsa always thought of Krishna, but he thought of him inimically. So although he got some pious result from it, he was not able to achieve the full thing. This is only done through the loving devotional service. And so now look, we are in the material world. There's no doubt about that. We're in the material world, and there are so many activities going on which will always distract us. And so, what is the easiest way to perform this already easy practice of devotional service? That is given in the Srimad Bhagavatam in the Chaitanya Charitamrita and the Srimad Bhagavatam. It says at the end, Nama Sankirtanam Yasya Sarva Papa Pranashanam Pramada Dukkha Parama Tam Namami Harim Param. That out of all of the Srimad Bhagavatam, it goes through a variety of topics and discussions in depth. It comes to the conclusion that there's simply the chanting of the glories of the name of the Lord. By chanting the name of the Lord, that in itself means that we are able to stay connected, always. And so Srila Prabhupada writes, Manmana bhava madbhakto madhyaji mam namaskuru. One must always simply think of Krishna by chanting this Mahamantra. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare. This is the most beautiful aspect of Krishna consciousness. This is done out of love. The personality of Godhead, Lord Shri Krishna, we cannot forget that the personality of Godhead is so loving, he's so beautiful, he's so sweet. Vallabhacharya has a wonderful bhajan. Adharam Maduram, Vadanam Maduram, Nayanam Maduram. He describes the lips of the Lord are so sweet. The eyes of the Lord are so sweet. The way he speaks is so sweet. The way he walks is so sweet. This is the sweetness of the Lord. And not only is the Lord so sweet, but he's so merciful. And he's so merciful that he says that he himself will take care of us as long as we just simply surrender unto him through this process of loving devotional service. And so that's why I'll please, if anything from the entirety of this series that we're doing, the one thing we need to recognize is the importance of loving devotional service to the Lord, and that is best executed in this day and age through the chanting of the Mahamantra. So in the 9th chapter, we've covered a variety of topics. We've covered the importance of hearing. Hearing is state-specific. We said that the reason that this knowledge is state-specific, we can only truly understand to the degree that we are faithful and non-envious. Then this knowledge is joyfully performed because it's God-loving rather than God-fearing. It's truly about loving devotional service. Then we discussed the Lord is inconceivable in nature, and we described that through a variety of means. And the Lord himself then goes on to talk about the glories of these devotional service. This devotional service is the easiest thing that we can do to fulfill our goal. When we recognize our identity, our purpose, then the process must also be identified from where we are to how we get to our purpose, and that is devotional service. And the easiest means of carrying that out is through chanting the Mahamantra, which will always keep our mind focused on the Lord to serve him with love. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, Swarna Prabhu and Jai Jagannath. Swarna Mataji, sorry. And whoever is Jai Jagannath, Jai Baladev, I very like that username. So this is a summary of the 9th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita. I would like to also add, I have not been able to explain this glories in its full depth. I can only do to the level of my ability, so please do forgive me if you felt that there was some really important word or point you felt in one of these verses which I hadn't touched on. But this is it. This process is joyfully performed, and that is the summary of this process. So if there is one verse you would like to memorize, you want to memorize a verse, but you find it a little bit difficult to memorize all the verses, this one verse, please memorize and try and apply and remember in your day-to-day life. The last final verse of the 9th chapter, which is the summary of all kinds of religion. It's also, that's the other thing. It's called Eka Shloki Bhagavad Gita. Bhagavad Gita in one shloka. That is the shloka. And so the next chapter we will do on the first Sunday in March, which is the 7th Sunday. And that time we'll describe Lord's opulence now. Vibhuti Yoga, the chapter 10 of the Bhagavad Gita. If there are any questions, please do put them in chat. This is simply the crux and the essence of the Bhagavad Gita. So if one may not be interested in the philosophy, one may be interested in only one aspect. It's only this idea which we should keep on focusing on at least. This is the basis for everything else. I don't think there are any questions in chat. So if there's nothing else left, we'll leave this session here today. And we'll speak to each other next week again. Okay, so it doesn't look like there is anything there in chat. And so thank you very much all for listening attentively. Please forgive me for any mistakes I've made in this process. So we'll meet again on the 7th of March in your own homes, and prasadam will be served there itself. Hare Krishna, Hare Bol. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Bhagavad Gita ki jai.